Hello everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday lives. I am pretty excited about today because I have some really fun things that I'm going to show you with dip. I last week had said that this week I was going to show you how to do a fill on dip, which I am, but as I was getting my nails prepared earlier, I realized there's a lot of other things that I want to show you that you can do with dip that is super exciting. So, can you see my nails really very well? I went ahead and I removed all that black that I did last week, and then I started prepping my nails and I realized I was prepping them too much for you, so I stopped with my pinky. So if you can kind of see on my pinky, you can still see a little bit of my French line right up here. Can you kind of see that in the camera? Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how we're going to buff this down and how cool this is, that you don't necessarily have to remove 100% of your dip every time. As you know with dip, or if you don't know, we use strength gel. We don't use the resin that most companies will show you how to use because it's messy and you glue yourself to everything and it stinks. You guys won't hear me ever say that I don't use this. I have to use this because my nails are so weak and brittle. So when I took everything off, I was trying to save it for you guys, but this nail was completely, this whole edge right here was completely tore off and it wasn't going to make it waiting until right now. So I went ahead and repaired that earlier, and then I thought I'm going to just do a layer of strength gel to show you. I had a question last week on if we have clear. Strength gel can be your clear. You just apply it how you're supposed to with strength gel, and then after you cure it, take either a cleansing wipe or use your brush with alcohol and just scrub off the tacky layer, and it's shiny and it's clear. So that is how you get clear, and you also get that strength. But this one was, I mean, this whole thing was completely tore from here all the way over. So I just wouldn't have any free edge right there. So to get started, as usual, if you see any shades of colors, I have been playing with a lot of different things. So I was trying to get all of that off of there, but we're going to push that back. If you get any of this stuff, this dust stuff that you're seeing right here, that's skin that's grown up on your nail. You got to get that off. That's why your polish lifts. So we're going to just push this back. I am going to show you how to do a fill. This, I stopped buffing on this one because I'm going to show you how that works too. Push back your cuticles and then you begin to buff. So we'll start with the one that we're going to do on the fill. And basically what you want to do is the strength gel will get really, really thick if you don't file it down enough each time. So I wouldn't recommend removing it completely every time. If you want to do the same color or darker, you can get away with doing this. And this is smooth enough right now. If you can see on the angle, again, I was doing things with other polish over the top of it today, but it's completely smooth to where if I wanted to just cover this up with a color, as long as it covers my white up, I could just paint a gel polish over that and be done. And I have all my strength that I need still from the dip. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to prep it. And although it's been buffed down, I still have to go in and prep it because I have not just freshly buffed it. So I need to get that dust. I always talk about that white dust, which some of that might be product, but I'll show you on the other ones. And you really want to make sure that you get that down enough because you're going to fill it and apply a layer that your nail doesn't get uber thick to where it's just this big, obnoxious, thick nail, which mine's getting close to that. So I'm just going to kind of file that down a little bit. I'm going to go along that cuticle area. So any of that dead skin that is growing up on my nail bed, I'm going to get that off. And then go through and prep all of these. I want to see, I don't know, my husband's a cameraman today, so if a man's voice chimes in, it's him. Can you see, if you look really, really close, I want you to see how far this is grown out. You can see where my dip and my strength gel are on all of these nails where they're grown out. Can you kind of see that a little bit? Mm-hmm. It just gives you an idea of just how sound this stuff is, and I just buffed down and I didn't remove all of, yeah, you can see I was playing with something teal there, huh? Again, playing with polishes.
Are we doing gel or powder today?
We are doing, well, we're actually gonna do a little bit of both. We're primarily doing powder, but I am going to show you a gel over a dip. So if you're really wanting that extra strength, and you feel like you want dip underneath, then I want to show you how to do that. So, so I'm going to get these all dusted up good for you. These I pretty much filed down already. But what'll happen is when you're doing, especially a French, when you file down, you got to remember that first layer is strength gel. So you can dust off all of the powder to the point that you stop at the layer of strength gel. And then you just can reapply and do a French. You can do a solid color. And that's why I want to show you, I'm going to literally show you something different on every single nail with dipping powder. And I had dip on. I did not use gel remover. I filed all of it off. I don't know. It's just gel remover works on dip. You just really have to make sure that you remove that top coat with the file. You have to etch it really good. You'll put that gel remover on, let it sit, scrape it off, and then you'll probably have to do it one more time just because it is, that strength gel is just so much more of a durable product. Preface again, do you see all the dust? That is proper buffing. If you have problems with chipping, if you have problems with your polish just coming completely off, it's not lasting, I can tell you one of the biggest mistakes made is in the preparation process, and people aren't getting this dust. So they're either thinking that they scrub their nails good enough and they don't need it, or that there's actually just not enough dust created. Now,
does that weaken the nails?
If you overfile, yes, so do not overfile. And I was just getting ready to say, do not overfile. We are not etching the nail, so this is not a damaging step at all. If you're really noticing scratches in your nail, you're overfiling. So if you use, there's two sides to our files, and you're going to be able to tell the difference. One's softer than the other. You're going to use the softer one. If you have strength gel left and you're buffing it down, well, you're not to your natural nail, so you can really use that more gritty side to get that dipping powder and stuff off. So you're going to see on this pinky that I'm going to get down to where you can still see just a tiny little bit of that French there, which is okay. We're going to go in and fill that. The thickness of it, not too bad. I know that I'm going to thicken it up once I do that fill. So I don't want to get it down all the way down to my natural nail, but I also don't want to leave too much that I end up with a club on my nail. Okay, so you might look like some of these are kind of scratched up just a little bit. You need to remember I have strength gel in here, okay, or on there. So when I actually, let me get rid of the dust there. My piece of paper, we'll talk about that here in just a second as to why I have a piece of paper. You can either use, time to cleanse, you can either use one of these. If you have one of our pumper bottles and our scrub brush, the scrub brush comes in our kits. The pumper bottles you can purchase on our website. You really need to scrub all of that dust off, kind of go in a circular motion, getting all of it out of the crevices of the cuticles around the nail, and then come in and do the tips like this. If you're having your polish pull away from your tips, meaning it looks like the polish, after you put the polish on, it's pulling back away from the tips and you can see that your tips are exposed, it's because you have oil. There's oils left on your nails. I've also had a couple of people reach out and they're like, I put it on my nail and it completely separates. I can guarantee you 100% without hesitation, your nail is not prepped properly and you have oils on your nail. That is the only time the product will separate like that. And it basically looks like when you try to mix oil and water, how it just separates. That's exactly what it looks like. So you're gonna see how dry my hands are around there. That is proper dehydration. We're gonna go back and hydrate all of that in the end. So they're gonna look really bad, but that's okay. We really need all of those oils and everything off because polish cannot adhere properly if you don't have them dehydrated. Okay. So we will start with the fill. Here's the other thing is you got to make sure it's completely dry. Like I can tell I just have a little bit of dampness left because that can hold so much water in there or alcohol in that brush. My paper is for if I over pour and it ends up on the paper, you can just fold it in half and slide it back into your jar so that you don't waste any product. One of these will last you forever. So we'll start with the white strength gel. And we're going to...
There's a question even after a couple days if it separates.
if it separates after a couple of days, it means it's not cured properly. Something didn't cure in the process. So my question would be is, what lamp are you using? And if it is our professional lamp, which you can show them our professional lamp right here. This is an 80 watt lamp. This is actually what I use in my salons, wattage wise. It is a very, very high powered lamp. If you're using our travel lamps, which I don't think I have one. If you're using our travel lamps, those wattages are a lot lower, and you have to be really careful that your fingers line up exactly underneath that light, and then your thumb cures separately. But after a couple days, if it's separating, something did not cure properly. Okay, so with this, I'm going to keep the white because say I'm just a creature habit and I love white. I'm going to go in here, ignore this because I'm going to cover it up. That was, again, me doing something with the color, testing it. And I'm just going to go in here at my cuticle and notice how I'm just fanning it up just a little bit. I'm not going to take it all the way to the edge, sorry, because I want everything to be balanced when I'm completely done. And this down here isn't as thick as this. So I'm just doing the bottom part for right now. And then I'm going to pour my directions that you guys get with the dip. It does say to dip your nail in there. I need to change those after all those are gone. I mean, we have them printed, but you can dip if you want to. I'm going to cure that. The only problem that you may run into with dipping is when you put the strength gel on. If you have it on really thick and you push into that jar with kind of some force, you have a tendency to move the product around, and you're going to pull your nail out of that jar, and it's going to be a hot mess. It's going to be everywhere. So that is why I kind of encourage pouring rather than dipping. You'll see me dip my tip when we do the French, which for obvious reasons, because it gives me a nice clean line. So, and I didn't change my timer to 60. I think it started at
115.
Okay. So that cures for a minute. You dust off your excess. If you need to, if it's kind of rough, I always say take your little buffer and just kind of smooth it out so you have smooth lines. And you obviously can see where I started and finished. My plan is for that to go away on this next layer. So let's see if this is a success when we're all done. I did get a little bit on my cuticle here, which is no big deal. You can pick that off. I'm not going to worry about that right now. My cuticle line isn't perfect either, but I'm going to go in there on the second coat and get it all nice and cleaned up. Get rid of your dust because you don't want a bunch of dust in your product bottle. If you start using any base coat or top coat and there's stuff in it, if you're like, God, what is in this? It's because you're not cleansing your nail off properly, or there's something on your nail when you're using it and it's getting in there. If you do end up getting dust or anything on your brush and you know that, don't stick it back in your bottle. Wipe it off first. Get a Kleenex, something that's lint free. So a Kleenex, or if your alcohol wipe is sitting next to you and it's dry, gently just take it and wipe the brush off. I would treat these like your eyelashes though. Wipe it very gently because you can pull that whole brush out of there, and that is not good when that happens. Make sure I got all the way along the sides. A little shaky. Sorry if I'm appearing to be shaky on the camera. Okay. I got a little bit on the sides. You want to get rid of any extra before you pour the powder on. If you got it in your cuticles, take your cuticle pusher, clean up any extra, but get that out of there because powder is going to stick to it, and then it's really hard to clean up with cured powder. And just pour that over there. Put a good amount on there. And sometimes I'll dip the tip of my nail in there just to make sure I've got that edge completely. And let's see what happens. I might have a slight color variation, which I will show you how to fix. We'll see if we fix it, I guess. So maybe we do pull that all the way to the edge, just a thinner coat rather than just at the bottom. So we'll see how this turns out, and then I'll show you a different technique if we do see that line.
How long do you cure this for?
60 seconds. It's always 60 seconds. Anything with strength gel is always going to be 60 seconds. If you're flash curing, or you ever hear me refer to flash curing, that means stick it in the lamp for about 5 seconds. You just want to keep that product from moving around until you do a final cure. I say 60 seconds on everything just because it's a safe cure. One of the things that you want to pay attention to also is even in the big lamp, if you notice on my hand, if I set my hand like this, my thumb is facing down. So if you have any part of your polish coming off on your thumb, it's because it's not curing. So when you put it in the light, you want to try to put your thumb upwards just a little bit because that light has to hit it in order to cure. So I can see a little bit of a variation in there. Not too bad though. So it depends on how particular you are. Get this on the side a little bit. I don't know. An easy way to fix it. I'm going to go super thin because I don't want a nail that is obnoxiously thick. And I'm going to go ahead and just do one real light coat, but super, super thin. Normally you don't put this on like extremely thin because it's used for strength. I'm going to put this, do it the other way and pour it back in going this way. That one I believe is going to work. Okay. So let's cure that real quick. And then you can top coat. Again, on dipping powder, you can top coat with your matte, or you can top coat with your extended wear. But on dipping powder, you do have to top coat. If you're using just our gel product, you do not need a base, you do not need a top. So there's a lot of different things you can do. You can put a top coat over your gel polish if you choose. I don't know, it's so shiny. I guess I've never had to. The only time I put anything over just the regular gel is if I want a matte finish, but you sure can put that over if you want to. All right, it looks like that should do the trick. Buff that down just a little bit. Again, the softer side of my file, I kind of want to use that because I just want a little bit more, and that this little sponge isn't broke in too much yet, so I don't want it to be too scratchy. It'll look better once I put the top coat on, but it kept us from having to completely remove that. Okay, so that is the solid color. I still feel like you could see a little bit of that. So what I would do different, honestly, on that one is how I showed you guys to pull up just a little bit. I would put just a little bit more here, lighter stroke, and then I would go a little bit smoother there, and then turn your hand upside down for just a second before you put the dip on there. I mean, it's still going to be fine. I'm just being a critic. So there's that. All right. That wasn't enough powder to put back into that. It was probably more dust than anything, and I don't want to mix dust in with my powder, so I'm not going to do that. Now I'm going to show you an ombre with the dipping powder, and this is really, really fun. I am going to do agave, and I'm going to do our French pink, which is a really, really sheer pink. And ombres to me are kind of like French manicures. You either wear them or you don't. So it just is, it's a trend that, like I say, it either fits your personality or it doesn't. Okay, so I'm going to light strokes. The more you use strength gel, the more comfortable you're going to get with it, to where I don't have to worry so much about it leveling because I know how to stroke the polish. But if you put it on and it's really uneven, or you look at the side and you're like, oh my gosh, it's everywhere, just turn it upside down for a second and let that product kind of move around. Okay? So what you're going to do is you want to kind of get a dust going first in here. so it's real light. And you want to just kind of get under, that might have been a little bit too much. We'll kind of see how that turns out. I'm going to move some of that dust or some of that off because it's too much and I don't want a line of demarcation. Here's another trick I want to show you, because I'm going to do it, is if you start hitting the point of disaster, it's okay. Just wipe it off and start over. And that was starting to hit a point of disaster for me. So we're going to try again. Get all the way on those sides. And on the tip. Really, really light sprinkles. Lighter than that. That's okay, that'll work. And then I'm going to take this pink so that it all balances. And I'm going to do it over the entire nail. Okay. Quick cure those. And I'm trying to think the most efficient way to do that so that we don't have to wait a minute in between. But if I jump around to too many of the nails, I don't want you guys to get confused with all of the different things that I'm doing. So we'll just be patient and wait through that. You guys let me know if you have questions. Trying to think if there's anything that I can say while I'm burning up that time. I'm anxious to see how when I top coat this thumb, I think it's going to turn out okay. 1 minute cure on that, each coat. And should be good there. Okay, we're going to dust off the extra because I don't want that dust in my polish bottle. And then I'm going to feel it. I'm going to buff it just a little bit. You can see where I didn't get it over here. That's okay. We're going to come back. See if I can get a little bit more of an even pour this time. Kind of tricky. I did this earlier and I cannot believe I like absolutely nailed it. And I'm like, of course, because I'm not videoing it. Let's see. I don't know. Need some on the sides here. It's acting kind of funny. Oh, look what I just did. Bummer. That actually could probably be a really cool custom blend. Could probably mix that up. I don't know. You gotta do some marbling or something fun with it too. Okay. That's something I'll have to show you guys sometime is marbling. All right, let's see how that's gonna turn out. Just pour the extra back in the lid. If you got a ton everywhere, you can just fold that paper in half, as long as the colors aren't mixing, because like I said, you don't want to mix those colors. Now, you can mix the colors if that's what you're trying to accomplish, but otherwise you don't want greens in your pinks, because if you try to do a French with it, it's not going to work out so well. And then I'm probably going to come back and top coat both of those so that you can see those real quick. You can matte over dip. I don't know if I said that earlier. If you do want your dip to look matte, you can sure top coat it with a matte rather than a shiny top. If you really like the shiny top because you feel like it gives you durability or whatever, you can do shiny top and matte over it. That typically works. Sometimes you'll have like some chipping or weird things if you do that, but typically it's okay. Okay. Not my best ombre, I'll tell you that much. It really does work, I promise you guys. Okay, well this looks terrible. I'm not going to even act like I'm going to recover from that one. Okay, so this is a great example here. I'm going to show you how I did removal. Use my grittier side. And I'm working on that strength gel so it's not touching my nail. And see if we'll recover from this struggle bus, guys. See, even professionals struggle. It's not normal to not have a struggle every now and again. So I know some of you at home are like, oh my gosh, this is so complicated. We all run into it. I do really, I'm on a mission here that shows this. So I might have been putting my strength gel too thin, so it's not giving the dip enough to stick to. The other thing that might happen is if your dip's not applying evenly, if you're doing a whole nail, it's because you could be applying it too thin and you have bubbles. Yeah, that's getting better. All right, so we will finish that one. The next nail I want to do for you guys is going to be just a solid first time application. So we did the re-gel on the thumb. We're doing the ombre on the index finger. The middle finger I'm going to do just a solid color, and then I'm going to show you on the pinky, since I still have a little bit of white left, I'm going to show you how to do a re-gel or re-dip on a French without absolutely removing it. And honestly, I had the French on before I filed all this down. Today's 2 weeks ago that I did that French on our live, and I could have easily gone another week plus. The white was just growing out is all. I want to see something. If you take your nail out and it's shiny like that, my question is if anything sticks to it, it might not be cured all the way. I had a question. What was it today? We had one that was chipping after a day, which is completely a prep issue. Chipping and lifting is always a prep issue. The oil, what was... Oh, I had a question today about if the polish is sitting on your step for delivery, if it freezes, if it jeopardizes the product. It should be okay, but what you're going to want to do is when you bring it inside, just leave it sit until it gets back to a normal temperature. So for probably, I would say a good hour or two, just leave it alone and then go ahead and open it. If you open it up, and we tested this is why, and right now in South Dakota, it's freezing, way below zero temperatures. And so we tested it on a heater and we also tested it outside. Frozen was rock hard. It was like glue. It was terrible. And we just left it alone and it was completely fine. So you should be okay. Just for, we don't want to do matte. We don't do extended. I'm going to go ahead and do these two and let's see how they're looking so far. And I think we may have pulled it off with the re-gel. That looks like it's going to work. Let's see about the ombre. Let's see how this turned out. Not terrible. Not terrible at all. You do need to cure this for 60. I'm going to cure it for 30. I'm actually probably not going to do a full 30 because my hand's going to go in and out of that lamp another several times. So it can finish curing then so that you guys don't have to sit and wait. But that gives you a good idea. I mean, that's kind of turning out. Not terrible. There's an ombre. There's my mixture of dust. See if I remember that's under there when I go to clean up. Okay, on the middle here, we're going to do Hottie. Just a solid color. So if you just want to do a solid dip, start in the middle of the nail. Always start in the middle of the nail. If you have way too much stuff, you can move it around without it going all over the edges, or you can wipe it off in the bottle just a little bit if you have too much. And then you kind of push into the cuticle just a little bit and come around, making sure you get the edges. Clean up any extra that you got outside of the lines. Oh, this is a nice pretty pink. Just do the whole nail. It's a really pretty pink. Okay, and then we'll go back and do a second coat of that. I do also want to show you, some of you have been asking for more sheer colors. We do have, I think, 15 colors that we're working on right now. It does take a while between getting bottles reprinted and the colors manufactured and mixed, filled, shipped, all of that good stuff. So there are more colors in the works. I have been listening to your requests, and we definitely are broadening our color spectrum. But I do want to show you a way that you can do a clearer color. So you can either do clear of just using strength and be done, or if you need that thickness that you like maybe from dip, you could just do a solid nail with the French pink and have really sheer nails. Going in for my second coat. Ooh, this is a really pretty pink. Again, until you get really comfortable with this strength gel, you may consider doing this for a good, 5-10 seconds or so, and it's just going to make that application all that more even. And you'll know after you cure it if it's not even, because it's going to be bumpy and look kind of crazy. And I just put just a bunch of powder on there because it lets it absorb more. Getting there. After my recovery from the ombre disaster. Let's see. Again, if you have a disaster going on to where it's just everywhere around the cuticles and you cannot clean it up with the cleanup brush and a little bit of alcohol, just wipe it off. Get it off completely and just start over so that you don't have to have a cuticle disaster. Again, that one's going to cure again. We'll come back and top coat that. This next one, I want to show you guys what the French pink looks like because it is just that pretty. And then we'll do the French on the last. You can just do one coat. If you feel like one coat is enough, you sure can just do one coat, especially if you're doing like a sheer pink. If you're doing a color, you're going to need to do 2 coats. That's just going to be kind of a given because you're going to see through it and it's not going to be very much of a solid color. It'll be more transparent. But like the sheer pink, we can easily do one coat because we're going for the sheer look. Okay, right here, can you guys see? I got in my cuticle. See how it's uneven? Before you put it in the lamp, go in there and cure that up. Or clean that up, not cure that up. And I can buff that down just a little bit. Go ahead and put just a little bit more dip on that. Just gonna cure that for another second again because of how many times I'm putting my hand in the lamp. And then we're going to do, oh, I know what else I wanted to show you. I can show you gel over the top of this, which we'll do that at the end because some people love dip, but they want a larger variety of colors. So you can do the French pink, which is almost clear, and then you can go back and put gel polish over the top of it.
Why would you do a dip if you're gonna cover it up?
Maybe you want a more variety of a color. So maybe there's more gel polish colors than there are dip colors. So maybe we have a polish color that you are just in love with that we don't have in dip. You could use one of your dips because you like that strength. It's all about strength, honestly, but you could use that dip for that strength, and then you can put your gel color over it. And then when you go to reapply the next time, you can just buff or file the gel polish off and then buff it down and reapply. Or you can put your gel remover on and it'll remove down to that dip and it'll start to slow down, and you can save that dip that's underneath. So it kind of creates a little bit of a foundation for you as well. Okay, so then we're going to go to the French on the pinky. Boy, I got all kinds of fun stuff going on these nails now, don't I? Nice even coat. I, on my French, don't like my white to be super thick, or like super thick line, or like extremely white. So with that being said, I just do one coat. If you like it really, really white or want it thicker, do 2 coats. You can do this with any. So if you want a colored French tip, you're going to stick it in slowly up to where you want that line to be. Maybe a tiny bit more. Kind of do it at an angle, that helps. And just sit there for a second so it can kind of absorb. Looks like I need a little bit more on that side. Yeah, looks pretty good. Okay. And then we're going to pour the French pink over the rest. And it's not going to stick to the white because the white is already covered up the sticky part. Okay, I'm going to do a 60-minute cure this time so that they all get that full cure. And then we can go back and top coat the ones we want to top coat. And we also, here's another cool thing. If you use dip and then you decide to do a gel polish over the top of it, you don't need a top coat. If you use dip by itself, you have to top coat. So the polish will act as your top coat as well. So, or you could do, if you wanted to do like a clear sheer pink dip and then you wanted to do a design with gel polish, you could do that. You could do some sort of a, I don't know whether you wanted to make a star, a flower, a heart, whatever. I would go ahead and top coat that because you don't have the entire nail covered with that gel polish. So hopefully that hasn't confused you guys. There's so many things that I can show you that I try not to do too many in one live so that you aren't confused. But this opportunity with all these different ones, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to show them how many cool things that we can do. Okay, so we need a top coat on this pink guy. I feel like I need just a little bit more. And then I'm going to do a top coat on my French. Did I dust him off? Now I got to be really careful so I don't get dust in my top coat. Circular motions, pulling your brush out of the bottle, will keep your bottle from being a disastrous mess, especially with the gel polish because it's thicker. It's supposed to be, remember, it's 3 bottles of polish in 1 bottle. So it's got a lot of ingredients in there. Okay. And again, I'm not going to cure this for a full 60 because I'm going to stick my hand in there one more time with showing you how to do the just gel polish over the top. So we'll just let that kind of set up just enough to where it's not moving around. Okay, so we want to do over the top of this pink because I love this strength. I buffed it first so it's nice and smooth. Get rid of that excess. And now I'm just going to do this super cool blue. This is Sapphire Night is the name of this one. Some of ours, the pigment is deep enough. You could do 1 coat if you wanted. Next week, we're going to show toes, quick and easy toes. When you look down and you have sandals on and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't leave the house like that. You can have toes that look amazing that are cured in 60 seconds, 1 coat, and you're out the door. That is a really pretty blue. Okay, we'll do a final cure there. and put our cuticle oil on and answer any questions that you guys have. Hopefully that was helpful today. That was a lot of information. We'll just continue to do random things for you guys that you can hopefully enjoy and practice and play with at home. Keep in mind those Frenches. We have some really pretty glitters. If some of you like French tip in a glitter or a little bit more subtle, you can sure do any color that you want. You can mix. I mean, some I've seen, if you want agave on the whole nail, but you want a white tip, or you want a white tip with pink, sky's the limit, whatever you want to do with that. So this one's a little uneven. I would, again, if you guys are going to regel, go ahead and put a little bit more down there and then carry it to the end really, really thin. It's going to be a little bit better of an end result, but it's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. And then put all that hydration back in your nail that we took out, dehydrating. I just did one coat of that blue because obviously if you want 2 coats, put 2 coats on, but I didn't have to put a top coat on because the polish acts as that top coat. That is gel on my nail or on my skin. If you get it on your skin like that, you can pick it off, but after you wash your hands a couple of times, it'll come right off. It's easier once you wash your hands, honestly. Just don't take your skin with it because it's cured onto your skin. So hopefully that was insightful. Saw how you recover from a disaster, that you can still make a good manicure out of it. If you do have a little bit on your skin like that too, you can just use your file. Any rough stuff on the sides, you can get rid of that. Those are pretty. So next week we will do some fun things with just toes, showing how ridiculously fast and easy it is to get your toes looking sandal ready or whatever. You got a hot date and your toes are a hot mess. So I thank you all for joining our live. I think we're going to stick with 4 p.m. Mountain Time. That seems to work well. And of course, it's always on IGTV if you want to go back and watch it. And I appreciate you. Thank you. Here we go. This I have to share, so...